If you gave up journaling because you were afraid someone was going to read it, or someone did read your journal and you feel completely violated and you just don't want to journal anymore because of that, then this video is for you. I'm going to show you 10 ways that you can journal and reap all the benefits without having the vulnerability of someone reading what you wrote. So let's get started. I have here my notes for the video. Okay. So number 1 is have a decoy journal. Okay. So a decoy journal is a journal that looks the same as your regular journal. Pretend these are the same. This wouldn't work because they're different, and someone with a keen eye would be like, oh, hey, these are not the same. So it just wouldn't work. You want to make sure they are the same journal. Like these would work because they're the same. They're very thin, but they're the same. So this would be a true decoy. And so what you do is, in one of them, you write very mundane things. Or if you know who reads your journal, you could write them little notes in here if you just want to be a little snarky and cheeky about it. But what you do is you write mundane things in one. Maybe it's a food tracker, or just write random numbers that mean nothing. It's a nothing journal. Okay, it's a big nothing burger for whoever decides that they need to be nosy and read your journal. Then in the other journal that you keep the decoy slightly hidden. Don't make it too hard to find, okay? They have to work for it to find it, but it's not like just laying out in the open for them to find. You put it in a reasonable place that a journal might be kept. And then your real journal, where you put all of your hopes and prayers and tears and sweat and fears and anger in, that one, you either keep it with you, keep it in your bag at all times, or find a super secret hiding place to hide it that only you know where is, or sleep with it under your mattress. But keep it near you all the time, and that way it's always safe and they can't read it. And when they find this, they're like, wow, this is so boring, not worth reading, and they'll just give up and leave you alone. Because if they see you writing in this one, okay, remember, decoy, real one, they see you writing in the real one and they think you're writing in the decoy because all they can ever find is the decoy. So that would be my first tip, okay? Have a decoy journal. And if you use traveler's notebooks, then have 2 that look the same. And have, one's a decoy, one's regular, and do the exact same process with a decoy traveler's notebook as you would, a paper journal. That is tip number 1. And it actually works quite well. I've deployed that throughout my life several times, and it works quite well. So, decoy. Now, the second one is, have you ever played the opposite game? Because this is what I would call the opposite game. It allows you to journal without making anyone feel like they've been attacked. I'm going to tell you a story, okay, about someone who's close to me. Okay, when they were a child, they got in trouble for some reason or another. The reason why is not important. But in order to process these emotions, she went and journaled it and in her diary that she kept. And it made her feel a little bit better because she wasn't allowed to express herself in the situation that she was in, because expression just wasn't the environment that she lived in. So she went and journaled it in her diary and felt a little bit better. But then her mother went and got her diary, because it evidently was the mother's habit of reading her daughter's diary, went and got her diary and read it, and then got angry at the daughter. The daughter then felt extremely violated, I'm sure, and when the father got home, she was punished for basically a third time. And she just didn't journal for years and years and years after that. And I don't blame her. I wouldn't have either. That's a horrible thing to happen. I don't think a parent should ever read their child's journal just like out of spite or something like that. But here's a technique that you can do so that you don't get in trouble. Okay. Now, keep in mind that all of these tips I'm gearing towards adults. That's just something that happened in my friend's childhood. So I don't want you to think these tips are for children. They are not, especially the last one. So don't get any ideas if you're a child watching this. Please practice safety at all times. But this is called the opposite game. Okay. So, like, a SpongeBob would have like an opposite day. And so if he said, I hate you, he really meant I love you. So when you're journaling, you would journal the opposite emotion of what you're feeling. So if you're feeling afraid or if you're feeling angry, you could just talk about the joy, just make it opposite of how you're feeling, and change names, change locations, just change everything and make it opposite. Okay, that's a lot of fun to do. I have used that before as well. It's a little harder to do though because you really have to change your thinking patterns. So it's a little more difficult, but that's definitely an option. Okay. The next one is storytelling. And I do this one a lot just because it's fun. And I'm at a point in my life where I just don't care about certain things, I guess. I'm not sure, but if you take what happened to you and you turn it into a story, okay, like say you get in a fight with your sister or your spouse, okay, you get in a fight with someone close to you and you want to journal about it. So you just make a story about it, okay? So rather than you getting a fight with your spouse or your sister or your brother or whoever, you get in an argument and you want to journal about it because you have all these feelings and you don't quite know what to do with them. So you want to work it out in your journal. Instead, tell a story that works out the same type of issue, but doesn't name names, doesn't blame anyone, doesn't make anyone feel shame, especially yourself. Okay. It's really, really hard to work through emotions when you're coming from a place of shame. So, not to say that shame doesn't have its place. I'm just saying that shame can get in the way of healing sometimes. So try to be mindful of the shame that you put on yourself. But just tell yourself a little story, write a little story about something that is, has the same intensity of feelings, and you'll be surprised at how well you feel at the end of your little story. So, storytelling. And by the way, that's an open book in case my drawing doesn't make sense. All right, the next one is third person. Okay, so this is a form where you are speaking in third person. So rather than saying, I'm really upset that so and so treated me like I don't even matter. And so instead of saying that, you would say, she felt really upset that she was treated as if she were insignificant. So you would just speak as if you were in the third person. And then it's more reflective and it's more thought-provoking rather than blaming and shaming. Okay? So third person is a good way to go as well. And the reason why this works is because if someone is reading it, they're not immediately going to think that you're talking about yourself. And so it's less of a gotcha moment for the reader and more of a, this is either boring or it's really interesting, depending on what kind of a writer you are. But that's kind of why it works, is because it's not directly you are saying something to the page. It's not I, it's she, or he, and that sounded funny anyway. All right, so the next one is to write in code. Okay, now I wrote this like fun little code here, and it doesn't mean anything as far as I know. I did find it on the internet, but it doesn't mean anything as far as I know. But if you wanted to develop your own code, you could. Now, another thing that you can do is you can assign a symbol for a person in your life and use that symbol instead of their name. You could abbreviate, take out all the vowels in your writing and just don't use any vowels. You could, abbreviate things so that only you know what it means. And then when you're looking at the page, it takes way too much work to try and read it, and people might get bored and stop. So that's always an option as well. Write in code. Now, if you wanted to write completely in code, you would have to develop your own code, and some people really find that enjoyable. I've dabbled in it. I think it's fun just for a fun thing to do. But ultimately for me, it was just too hard to implement. But I do know that there are people that do this. So it's definitely an option. You can abbreviate names, places, and anything. You can just turn them into symbols, and then unless somebody can glean from the other details what's happening, they wouldn't know who you're talking about. All right, and this is along the same lines. If you know another language, then journal in that language. Or if you're learning another language, try to journal as much as possible in that language. And that will kind of make people not really want to read it if they don't understand the language. A lot of people are lazy and they just don't want to work that hard. Now, some people are not lazy and they will work that hard. So you need to figure out what kind of a person you're dealing with. Most of the time we know who's reading our journal, right? Okay, so sometimes what I would do is I would write a note to that person and be like, hi, so-and-so, I hope you're having a really great day. I hope my journal's entertaining for you. And, I would just write snarky stuff like that in my journal. And eventually they quit reading it because they knew that I knew they were reading it. So they stopped. But that's an option, if you know a second language or even a third, write in that language, and that will discourage prying eyes. Okay, another one is crosswriting. Okay, so they used to use this back in the day when paper was very expensive and they wanted to save paper. They would get letters and it wouldn't have this part. It would just be written here. And then they would reply to the letter by turning it 90 degrees and writing across it. And as you can see here, it's kind of hard to read what it says once they intersect. So you could cross-write. It would discourage people from trying to read. I think the reason why it worked back then is because most people made their own inks, and so the saturation would be different, and it would be easier to read if the color of ink here was different than the color of ink here. It would be a little bit easier to read. But if you're using the same ink, it's going to be pretty difficult to make out. So that's called cross-writing. It works pretty well, and it looks kind of cool when you do a whole page of it. I'll show you. You'll see. But yeah, when you do a whole page of it, it looks pretty cool. And yeah, it discourages people from trying to read your journal. All right, let's go to the next one. Okay, so this one is painting over the words with paint, and you can use just regular craft paint. You could use a Sharpie marker, and this will bleed through most paper, so just keep that in mind. But the paint works really well, and you can just paint over whatever you want to paint over, and you don't have to worry about anybody reading it because they can't see through the paint. And that way you get the experience of writing it out. You get to release all of the things you need to release onto the paper, and then you just cover it up with paint and you're good to go. You could paint a picture on it if you want to, or just leave the paint one color. You're not required to do anything after that. And it does work. It works great, actually, and it's kind of fun to do as well. I recommend that one. If none of these other ones work for you, I recommend painting the page. Works great. And then the next one is to glue or collage over top of it. Okay, so if you have, you go through your journaling process and then you take out collage material and you just glue it right over top. Now, you can leave some things exposed that you don't mind if people read that part, but if you have something really private, you just glue something right over top of it. You can use this kind of glue or this kind of glue. I would recommend a permanent glue, because then if they try to separate the glue from the paper because they want to read underneath, it'll end up tearing the paper, and their goal will not be attained. So that's what I would recommend, like a glue like this or something permanent. Definitely. You could have two pleasures because you're journaling and then you want to make a collage so you get art when you're done. And no one would even know that you journaled underneath of it. It works great. It's a great option. You can junk journal over top of it as well, and then no one ever needs to know. And then this one here is, don't even bother keeping a journal. Just keep like a spiral notebook or a loose leaf journal. And then as soon as you journal it, burn it. As soon as you're done journaling it, don't even let the ink dry. Just throw it in the fire, burn it up. And I don't know if I need to tell you why that works. Unless people figure out a way to read microscopic ashes, because, once it's done burning, I would destroy the shell of paper that's left. But unless people figure out how to read that, they're not going to read your journal. Your journal basically doesn't exist anymore, but you get the benefits of journaling. And there are so many videos out there on the benefits of journaling. I highly encourage you to go watch them. Some of them are even mine that I have made over the years. I am a huge advocate for journaling, so however you can get it done, please do. Yeah, you can burn it in the fire when you're done, and no one will ever know your deep, dark secrets, or even your light, happy rainbow thoughts. It doesn't always have to be deep and dark. And then lastly, okay, get a safe that only you know the combination of, or that opens with your thumbprint, and they can't get into it, and keep your journal in a safe. I have 2 safes, and I don't keep my journal in either one of them, but if I had somebody in my house that just couldn't keep their nose out of my business, I would stick my journal in my safe and then not worry about it at all. So they're not that expensive anymore. You can get them for your closet. You can get some that go on the side of your bed. Yeah, that is just some of the ways that you can journal, reap the benefits of journaling, and keep prying eyes out of your business. So, what are some ways that you keep a journal private? Tell me in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.